For 500 years, Egypt's story has been written along the Nile. Its power, its identity, its civilization, all of it grew from a narrow ribbon of life cutting through the desert. But today, Cairo is choking on its own success. More than 20 million people are packed into a city never designed to hold them. Roads are jammed. Infrastructure is strained. Air pollution hangs over entire neighborhoods. And every year, the pressure gets heavier. This is no longer just urban congestion. It is a national bottleneck. So Egypt made one of the boldest bets on Earth. 5 kilometers east of Cairo in open desert, a new capital is rising from nothing. A city built almost from scratch. A city that could eventually hold millions of people, house ministries, embassies, business districts, parks, power systems, and one of the tallest towers in Africa. The price tag, around $58 billion. The question is not whether this city is ambitious. It is whether a country under economic pressure can actually pull off one of the most complex urban transformations ever attempted. Because this is not just about moving offices out of Cairo. This is about building a second heartbeat for Egypt. And at the center of that ambition stands a tower so impossible, so visually dominant that it feels less like a building and more like a statement. The iconic tower. But before we get to the tower, we need to understand why this city exists at all. Cairo is one of the oldest living megacities on the planet. And honestly, it became a victim of its own history. The streets are packed. The expansion feels messy, almost uncontrolled. The infrastructure has been carrying the weight of growth for decades. Maybe too many decades. Every day there, it can feel like you are racing the city itself. Traffic noise, pressure. It never really stops. And that is exactly where Egypt's new administrative capital enters the story. This is not some random suburban spillover, not a fancy side project for the rich. It is Egypt saying very clearly that the old way is breaking. So now, 5 kilometers into the desert, the country is trying something far bigger. A third-generation megacity. A whole new urban world planned across roughly 700 to 900 square kilometers with separate zones for government, culture, business, housing, and open space. Clean lines, new rules, a blank canvas in the sand. I remember looking at a map of Cairo and thinking, how does a city like this even keep going? It already feels full, already feels tired. Then you see the new capital, and the whole idea hits differently. It is not just construction, it is pressure relief. It is ambition, maybe even a little desperation too. Think of it as a clean slate. A city where roads, utilities, digital systems, and transit lines are being designed together instead of patched together over decades. That is the theory, at least. Egypt Vision 2030 frames the project as part of a larger national transformation. A way to modernize government, attract investment, reduce pressure on Cairo, and create a new urban identity that looks forward instead of backward. And that brings us to the most dramatic symbol of all, the iconic tower. At nearly 394 meters tall, it is designed to be the tallest building in Africa. 77 to 80 floors of glass, steel, and engineering ambition, rising out of desert land that once looked completely empty. From a distance, it does not look like a building under construction. It looks like a challenge. The design is deeply symbolic. Egyptian planners have described it as blending ancient pharaonic inspiration with modern vertical power. The shape echoes the form of an obelisk, one of the most recognizable monuments of ancient Egypt, while the glass exterior and soaring profile signal a new era of global finance and urban identity. This is what makes the tower so powerful visually. It is not trying to hide the past. It is trying to reinterpret it at a scale the modern world cannot ignore. And the engineering behind it is just as bold as the symbolism. To build this kind of structure efficiently, engineers have relied on advanced construction methods designed to accelerate floor completion and manage concrete delivery in extreme conditions. In a project of this scale, time is money. But time is also heat, dust, logistics, labor, and risk. Every day matters. The foundation alone had to be treated like a geological event. The tower sits on a massive concrete base engineered to anchor a super tall structure into difficult ground conditions. In a desert environment, with intense heat and shifting construction demands, the foundation is not just a support system. It is the hidden weapon that makes the entire skyline possible. And the tower is only one part of the larger central business district. The CBD feels like a forest of towers dropped into the sand. Not one tower, a whole cluster. Glass, steel. It is meant to hold financial firms, offices, hotels, residences, and government-linked institutions all in one place. A city inside a city. And the message is clear, almost blunt: Egypt is open for business. The scale is huge, roughly 1.9 million square meters huge. When I first saw the plans, I remember thinking, this does not look real. It looks like something made for a presentation, not for actual dust, actual heat, actual boots on the ground. But thousands of workers have been part of the tower work alone, and across the wider district, tens of thousands of jobs are tied into the project. That kind of number changes everything. It is not just architecture. It is labor, movement, pressure. But here is where it gets less glamorous and more serious, because the new capital is not only a skyline project, it is also an infrastructure project. Roads matter, power matters, water matters, transit matters. Digital systems matter just as much as the shiny towers, maybe more. A city can look impressive from far away, easy. But if the roads jam, if the lights flicker, if the water supply strains, then the whole thing starts to crack. And that is the real test here, not the glass, the guts. The monorail is one of the clearest examples. Egypt has been building a driverless monorail network meant to connect Cairo to the new capital and help solve the problem of access before the city becomes fully populated. In a region where traffic can consume hours of a person's day, transit is not a convenience. It is the difference between a city working and a city failing. The goal is to move tens of thousands of passengers per hour across a system that stretches about 100 kilometers. That scale matters because a brand new capital cannot survive if people are forced to drive everywhere. A smart city, if it deserves that name, has to move people efficiently from the beginning. Then comes the digital layer. The new capital has been presented as a smart city with systems intended to monitor traffic, coordinate utilities, and reduce waste through real-time management. In the most ambitious version of that vision, AI and sensors do not just collect data. They help shape how the city reacts. Traffic flow can be analyzed dynamically. Water systems can be monitored for leaks or inefficiencies. Electricity demand can be balanced more intelligently. Security and public services can be coordinated with a level of visibility that older cities never had. That is the dream. A city where systems do not just exist, they communicate. And then there is the power question, because no city in the desert survives on symbolism alone. Egypt has leaned heavily into solar energy as part of the new capital's long-term strategy, including large-scale solar development intended to cover a meaningful portion of the city's needs. In a place where sunlight is abundant but water is not, energy planning becomes a test of national priorities. Building a new capital without a serious power strategy would be like building a ship without a hull. But perhaps the most visually striking answer to the question of livability is the Green River. This is the project's attempt to create a massive linear park, stretching through the city like an artificial artery of green space. In a place where rainfall is scarce and the surrounding landscape is harsh, this is not a decorative touch. It is a climate strategy, a psychological strategy, and a political strategy all at once. Because every new capital needs more than office blocks and ministries. It needs a place where people can feel they actually live there. The Green River is meant to soften the desert, to provide shade, walkability, public space, and a sense that this city is not just being built for power, but for life. Yet behind every repolished render and every ceremonial launch is the same brutal question: how do you build this in the Sahara? The answer is logistics. Thousands upon thousands of tons of steel, cement, glass, wiring, piping, and machinery have to be transported through extreme heat and managed in an environment where the desert itself fights back at every stage. Workers operate in conditions that can become punishing. Materials can be stressed by temperature. Schedules can slip. Supply chains can choke. Dust gets into everything. This is the hidden reality of the new capital. It is not just designed, it is endured. And because Egypt chose to build at this scale, the project now sits at the center of a larger argument about the country's future. Supporters say this is exactly what Egypt needs: a pressure valve for Cairo, a symbol of national confidence, and a chance to build a modern administrative core that can support growth for decades. They argue that old cities cannot carry infinite load forever. At some point, a nation must build outward, upward, or both. Critics see something else. They see a mega project built during economic strain. They see a capital that could become disconnected from the realities of ordinary Egyptians. They see luxury districts, expensive towers, and grand avenues that may look incredible on camera, while the old city continues to wrestle with traffic, overcrowding, and inequality. And that is what makes this project so compelling. It is not a simple success story. It is a national gamble, a bet that Egypt can do what many countries only imagine: build a new urban core from raw desert, connect it with modern infrastructure, and give it enough gravity, literal and economic, to matter. As of 2026, several districts have been slated for official opening, and the city continues to move from concept into lived reality. That is where the real verdict begins. Not when the renderings go viral, not when the tower is photographed at sunset, but when people actually move in, commute, work, govern, and live there every day. Because a capital is not proven by its skyline, it is proven by whether it works. And that is why the iconic tower matters so much. Not because it is tall, though it is. Not because it is expensive, though it is. But because it is the clearest symbol of Egypt's new ambition to prove that the impossible can be built, if a nation is willing to commit enough money, engineering, and political will to force it into existence. For thousands of years, the pyramids defined the world's idea of Egypt. Now the question is whether this new tower, this new city, this new desert experiment could become the first chapter of another long legacy. A legacy not of stone in the sand, but of a nation trying to reinvent itself in real time. So the question is not just whether Egypt can build a capital. The real question is whether it can build a future. And if it can, this may be remembered as one of the boldest urban moves of the 21st century. Which part of this 580B project impresses you most?